Now, to be honest with you, I always wanted to make this video of the norm, sort of talk about it, review it, and talk about what was completely wrong with it. But the only problem is that everybody was doing the same thing, to the political side, to the cartoon side. But the only problem is the fact is so little you actually say while actually repeating yourself like everybody else. So I decided to not to I figure out the very interesting way to tackle it. And I just was sort of watching X, and where they actually posted of the new norm said this is basically South Park from X. So you compare yourself to be controversial and pushing the line as South Park. And this is the point I realized, wait a minute, you kind of understand what South Park is. In fact, many people do, because you want to be South Park or compared to South Park, you have to understand how soccer actually works. You have to understand the formula, because every time they attempt to copy that formula, it sort of fail and burn because how simplistic the formula is, but yet how absurd it really is to actually make it work. Because there is a lot of little mini formulas around the main formula of South Park, how you can actually copy it and make it work in the norm. And something that is sort of astounds me because nobody tries, or they do try to copy it, but can never get fully, or not fully, it's more they're not daring enough or creative enough to go full the distance, because the formula how the South Park use it is very bold, and you have to be not afraid to say sort of things. And that's basically what how South Park does so well, because the formula demands it, and you have to be unafraid of. Compared to the new norm, watch the new norm, you are completely bored, especially whatever they topic they trying to tackle. At least this pilot, it just sort of fails completely, because anything political goes outdated automatically, especially in animation, because it takes a long time. It really does. Of course, let me break down the formula of South Park, how you can actually imply it into norm, or how they misunderstand norm, how to use South Park's formula. Now, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, the reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, you like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If you don't, then fine too. If you do, thank you, especially all the people who helped me pass 1,000 subscribers. Now I have a new goal of 2,000 subscribers. I don't know when I'm gonna do that or pass that, but it doesn't really matter because that is my new goal. Now, let's talk about norm, how it sort of misunderstood South Park. Now, Matt and Trey formula, how it's used, is sort of kind of simple. That it's just sort of shocking how simple it really is, but you easily get confused because how they use the wording, how they explain it. You have to use this happened, therefore this happened, but this happened. Sounds confusing, but you add it together how the storyline connects, you kind of get how the direction goes, whatever subject matter they actually choose to go in. Because it sort of force them to be kind of creative using that. Because how their own word says, if you instead use like and then, that means you sort of ending the whole kind of joke or storyline line there, because you realize you sort of explain the situation or make it boring. Because when they use this happened, therefore this happens, you're sort of pushing yourself to actually be more creative. This is why they eject sort of random comedy, shock humor, and also sometimes that sort of pause moment to really reflect the sort of joke, and that's why it works super well. On top of this, they also add the 3-act structure to help them point the direction of the storyline. That the 3-act structure, they use it as sort of kind of 3 jokes sort of connected together, but making sure none of the 3 jokes don't feel wasted, because you do want the other 2 will be completely wasted because what you put on, because you did the first one exactly how you need it. You just repeating the joke 3 times. And that's why it's sort of simplistic yet kind of complicated because they keep juggling so many different things. In fact, Mantrade themselves do kind of make fun of it themselves because how absurd simple this formula is, but they have to be dedicated. In fact, this is the reason why they stayed inside their building for 3 months, a total of 10 weeks, while leaving because they have to sit down and read the script and really understand they are explaining it or actually exploring different ideas to not make it boring. And that is just the way they actually work. And because it actually works super well. Of course, they have the time limit. That time limit really kind of screwing themselves over because sometimes they can really not think about the joke. You think, is it funny? Is it offensive? Is it not offensive? That's another reason why some of the jokes are super out there because they don't have time to think because they have a schedule to maintain before they get fired if they don't keep that schedule online. But besides that, that put that formula into the new norm. Because the new norm, if you watch the pilot episode, they sort of introduced this new norm, this sort of kind of 50, 40-year-old man who basically complains to everything around him. But when he grabs the beer, he just pissed off trying to promote gay pride or something like that. And he complains about it, but he never really adds anything. Because this is the thing what Matre says. Because they sort of explain his anger, but he never really explored the idea of the joke. Because he sees the beer commercial of pride gay thing. It says saying, and then they sort of explain it. Instead of explaining it, should put like, therefore this happens. Put that in there. Like he has the beer can. He's sort of complaining, but then he think about it. Maybe this is a brainwash technique about the gay community or something else. Therefore, he actually went to the beer company or researched in the internet to find out why. Then this happens that someone came in thinking about it. Oh, you not care about gay pride, and therefore it continued on and on. This is a way to make the show not boring. This is the way how South Park works because they put a situation that something has to happen to actually make it interesting. This is why South Park works so well because they have to interrupt that sort of situation and have to make up something interesting. And sometimes they whatever they come up with is sort of super random. Almost feels like natural. That's why Norm have to go to, let's say, gay it's sort of a gay meeting by accident because he doesn't want to destroy his detective work. Trying to understand why they doing this. It could be the sort of agenda or something like that. It goes bigger and bigger. You realize the gay community are not gay. They're dolphins, evil genius dolphins trying to manipulate to entertain people so they can take over the world. Once again, sounds completely random, but it actually works. But at the same time, they add another thing so interesting about the formula of Matt Trey to make, let's say, the new norm work is the fact they never really use very specific names or the ideas they use. Like, this is the reason why you use metaphors, because the more metaphors they use, the more and more they can reuse that same idea again or that character. This is the reason why South Park has so many characters, because they sort of allow them to experiment and reuse the same characters, but yet not actually throw them away. Because you make a character for that single episode, you don't really need them to use them ever again. But it'd be easier to use that character instead of making a new one, just readdressing it a different way. But never really destroying what's the whole point of that character, make it as a metaphor. Because they use that specific, let's say, Manpig. Because Manpig is a perfect example from South Park, because Manpig supposed to be a metaphor of climate change that Man Trey never believed in. He actually made fun of it, but became true. So now they use Manpig as a sort of a real thing, because the original episode they focus on Mantic supposed to be a myth and making the fun of the people who believe it. But nowadays, Manpay is real in the show. It's because climate change is true. But they're not tied to that sort of idea because they use Manpay in different ways in the series while have to using it as sort of a uh, climate change sort of metaphor. They can reuse the metaphor because the character became a character. And that's what metaphor works so well for Matt and Trey in how they reuse that character in any idea they have to use him from. That's so simple and brilliant, but yet so hard to do because once again, you have to keep using the formula like this happens, therefore this happened, but, and that's the but thing because you're stuck to actually be creative. That's where the random things happen. This is where the shocking thing happen because they need to put something in between to wake you up. Sometimes it's not on purpose to be shocking. That's why it's so brilliant, the formula, and this is the reason why the new norm doesn't really work, or at least compare itself to South Park because they're not using Matt and Trey's formula. Because in the new norm, the only thing, the norm, the being lead character is just complaining about beer, how people act, but never really adding anything new because political jokes or political anything is very limited nowadays. Even if you turn one side, the left side or the right side, you need to use both sides to make a skit work or a full dedicated episode. But even that, you can't really use that joke or that person or that anything in that specific episode because it's sort of updated, no one remembers, and you feel sort of awkward using him because you're not sure what to do with them. If you do, it became sort of boring. And that's the main problem of the new norm. It complained about the beer commercial about gay people or why people change the name or change sex, but that's the problem. That sort of become outdated really fast. That's why they need to use metaphor. This is the reason why they use sort of have to use the Matt and Trey formula. Like for example, this happened, therefore this happened, but this happened now works using but to stop you to actually react to something or add something else to actually add something twist to keep you awake. That's why it works super well. Use that to the new norm. It doesn't. They don't use the formula. If they did, they have that sort of evil mastermind dolphins who take over the world because it's so random, but yet they're trying to keep true what they're trying to do, but yet that's when they have to use something completely random or a metaphor, some sort of shock value to keep your attention. That's why you make a good sort of South Park episode or a rip-off of South Park. It's the randomness, the shockiness, because the format demands it. On top of all this, not just the whatever the skit or the act you're trying to put up. It's the fact is you have to understand the second formula. The second formula of South Park is the point of view of the kids who have to understand. The other formula is the adult point of view, how they try to explain it or avoid to explain it or solve their problems. That sort of kind of near close to similarity to the kids, but sometimes not interact. It's sort of the reacting of the kids what they're trying to do. Not all the time, but you get the idea. On top of all this, you also have another formula. Each single character has this sort of own theme, own joke, and you have to figure out how that joke fits to that character, fits to the main formula to make it work. Once again, this is the reason why I said South Park has a very simple formula, but yet very complicated because you have layer after layer after layer of other jokes. But hopefully I did not confuse you because I have to quietly write it down before I get confused because it's just sort of different ways or phrases they use in Matt and Trey sort of video because I watched the video of Matt and Trey explain their formula. It's only like a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and I have to rewatch it over and over again to finally get what they're saying because the formula is just super simplistic, but how they word it, it's just so complicated. But the end is sort of worth it because it really kind of understands how they actually work, understands how the show works so well. It's because in the formula they have to be bold. On top of all this, they have to be inspired by something to create, and this is the reason why they get so into politics, because politics is sort of kind of like a faucet sink will not close. It keeps coming and coming and coming. All that inspiration, you can make episodes after episodes. But once more, never really approaching it, always trying to see what the characters react, not how they react. They have opinions on specific things, they hate it or they love it, but they use the characters to point their own opinion. The character opinion, not the creator's opinion. That's another thing to make it work so well compared to the new norm. The new norm is all about the opinions of the creator, not the character norm that has to be his own opinion. Even they both align the same politics, you kind of fall into your own voice box, that your own words. And that's the problem. It's not your words, it's the character words. What is the joke of that? That's why you have to sort of understand the formula of South Park, how they work, and what every time everybody trying to copy it, you sort of misunderstand how they work, because they have multiple little things to actually force it to make it work. You also be bold, because you go a specific subject matter, you might sound racist or one-sided, and this is the reason why they use metaphors, not all the time, but sort of help it to guide it to soften the blow, but yet still be shocking, whatever opinion they choose to be. And that's why it kind of works. Even that sometimes it fails man trade, because it's sort of double edged sword when it works, and it works when it doesn't, because they have not enough time, because they have only 6 episodes, but it works for them. Of course, they use the same formula with other different projects that Trade uses, but what's more, it's a double-edged sword, because every time they do a different project, it's not South Park. People still call it, oh, they're using the same stick as South Park. They never change it, because that's the only formula they know. It actually works so well. But besides that, what do you think about it? Do you think or you understand why the new norm, besides the obvious, fails to understand South Park? Tell me down below. Let me know. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.